I personally have examined Mr. Edison's phonograph, and I find that it is nothing but the clever use of ventriloquism. If some of you scoff at our breakthrough, it is probably because Doc Nick sounds a bit like a robot. We certainly agree that he does. But please recognize what you just heard for what it is. A start had been made towards someday getting continuous two-way conversation instead of jammed together bits and pieces, phrases that were characteristic of tens of thousands of the earlier EVP voice recordings. At about this time, it is our great good luck to come into contact with a scientist among the so-called dead who identified himself as Dr. George Jeffries Mueller. We remembered the 2,000-year-old injunction in the Bible to the mediums of that day to test spirit communicators. So we checked to see that Dr. Mueller really was who he claimed to be, and we hit the jackpot. He told us where we could find a copy of his death certificate issued in 1967. He told us his Social Security number. And he told us intimate details of his life and scholastic activities at the University of Wisconsin and Cornell University, his instructorship in physics at Cornell, and his top-level jobs in government and industry. His photograph and biographical data are given in our publication entitled spiritCON. The fact that Dr. Mueller had written a textbook on electronics and had had a lifelong hobby of studying the theory of music enabled him to help us carry the research far beyond the level we had reached with Doc Nick and further refine our understanding of the audio frequencies we needed to arrive at our second major breakthrough. It occurred on September 22, 1980. Here it is.
Better right there, William. Did you understand? Well, yeah.
Yes, sir, I understood, Doctor.
Very well. You know the 1, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to learn it, William.
Okay.
Very well. There he is, the lamb. Right in the snow, and everywhere that merry wind, the lamb said, oh, play that lamb for me, William. William.
Yes, sir.
Play that lamb for me.
All right, Doctor. I'm sorry, I was lighting a cigarette.
Oh, then cigarette again. Thank you, William.
Yes, I did, Doctor.
Very well. I'm back about 3 feet now. I'm back about 3 feet. I'm going to give you a count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's frequency again, William.
Very well, Doctor.
1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that is somewhat better, William. Play that back if you will.
Well, Mary's little lamb certainly is adding to its claim to immortality. But since one of the first rules of science is that of replication, nothing could be more gratifying than to have Dr. Mueller's conversation confirm that we had at last established meaningful instrumental communication with a person who had shed his physical body. Now, thanks to Dr. Mueller's contributions to the new communication systems, we want to share a remarkable conversation with another communicator. What makes it remarkable is that he says he died 151 years ago. Fred Engstrom, which is how he identifies himself, says he lived in a rural area in Virginia and died in 1830. Our check of the scanty birth records of that place and time has not yet confirmed his existence then. But as you learned in The Magic of Living Forever, serial time as we know it does not exist in the worlds of spirit. When you listen to this next conversation, observe that this quality of Fred Engstrom's voice, while still robot-like, is vastly better than that of Doc Nick's voice at the time of our first breakthrough.
Did you give me a count of 10?
No, go ahead and laugh. Okay. Let's see. I'll make it change here. Now say something. I'll give you a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You sound more like a robot. I doubt that very much. I'm going to change it back again. Now give me a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I heard you. Wait a minute. Now give me another count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh boy. Okay. Wait a minute now. Okay, dear. I was talking to my wife. Oh, that's right. You said you were married, boy. Okay. Anyway, I'm glad you have a sense of humor. Well, if you can hear me, you'll be able to hear that because I'll make a tape of it, okay? Okay, yeah, oh boy, that'll be fine. Oh boy, that's right, you mentioned that you were married. How long have you been married, Bill? About 8 years. Oh, well, I never did ask you how old are you, Bill? I'm 63. Oh boy, I thought you were maybe in your 20s. Well, mentally, I feel like I'm in my 20s, but when I shave, my mirror says, "Who are you fooling, old man?" Yeah, I know what you mean. You're right about that, you know. Well, I'll tell you like that. I'm going to have to go here with me. Oh boy, yeah, I'm going to have to go right now. Go on, I'll talk to you later, okay? Yeah, it's okay, Fred. Good night. Good night. The following examples of Dr. Mueller's voice are taken from many hours of two-way conversations with him, some of which lasted for half an hour or more. These tapes represent the present limited capability of the electromagnetic etheric device we call spiritCON, a word coined by taking portions of the two words spirit and communication. This particular device is called spiritCON Mark IV. The great value of the technical assistance given by Dr. Mueller is dramatically shown by this next excerpt, taken from a spiritCON conversation in April 1981. Near the start, he gives his reactions to one of the audio frequencies and then proceeds to pinpoint an electronic circuit problem on the video apparatus on which he and William were working.
Just a minute, Doctor. Yes, I know you're here, but I'm going to cut down the volume of these other frequencies. I want to cut them down to a level that won't,
I'm not sure, William, but